What up, everyone? This is the Comic Outlaw, and we're doing this one more time, and probably this is going to be an ongoing series. This is called Outlaw's Corner. This is my co host, Magnus, coming from the planet of magic and such. Maybe later we'll be going into that, but right now we are talking about Spider Man villains. Yes, sir. Due to the release of Spider Verse, we thought we'd give the villains a little love. What do
Sure.
you think about that, Magnus?
It sounds like a great idea. He has quite the menagerie of villains.
Yes. And also, I have my Klingon Grodd, as always.
All right, so I mentioned menagerie. As legend has it, Stan Lee would often, I guess his idea was opening up a book and, trying to just pick out animals to base it off of, such as a rhino, scorpion, octopus, and that's
Well, at
how
that
the
point
villains
too,
can be.
he pretty much borrowed or stole from the classics.
Mhm.
He basically ran out of books. I mean, he took Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein, made it the Hulk.
Sure.
He did this and that. There's a controversy that the X-Men was actually a ripoff of the Doom Patrol.
Yep. I believe DC sued Marvel for that.
But they sue each other all the time. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
Green Arrow came first, and then Hawkeye. Submariner came first. Aquaman. I
Yeah.
mean, Catwoman. Black Cat. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like WCW and WWE.
Yeah.
It's hard to really sue each other. But anyways, we're talking about Spider-Man villains, and he does have a large. And it's funny you mentioned Stan Lee. He had a habit of naming villains and heroes with the same, like
Alliteration.
first, yeah,
Yeah.
Peter Parker, Otto Octavius,
Yeah.
J. Jonah Jameson Jr. Son,
Yeah.
that was one of his main things. Reed Richards.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was something to help him remember. And that kind of comes with like the whole, is it David Banner or Bruce Banner?
Bruce
Because-
Banner, yeah. Scott Summers.
Yeah. And, but yeah, I mean, he kept a lot of the same things. Obviously, some of them don't fit as well, like Wilson Fisk, Norman Osborn.
Well, those guys came a
Yeah.
little later, but
Yeah.
Matt Murdock.
Yep.
Jeez, you can actually sit here and
So, actually, speaking of Daredevil, since Spider-Man seemed to have such a large amount of villains, like a lot of them
Yep.
splashed into Daredevil. Obviously, Kingpin, the Owl, Punisher, like him and Daredevil often bump heads more than Spider-Man and Punisher.
well, the Kingpin. I love the Kingpin. He's actually more than a match for Spider-Man. People think that he's weak, that he's
Oh no,
looking at him, he's a big fat guy.
yeah, he's mostly muscle.
Yeah, he's actually harder than muscle. He can give Spider-Man, even with all his strength, a run for his money.
Yeah,
And though Kingpin did make his bones in the Daredevil issues, like you said before, the Frank Miller run,
Mhm.
and even afterwards, like in the animated series, I love how like the original one that Kingpin was a constant villain.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It made so much sense.
well, and he is like the one of the highest rated, like effectively sumo wrestlers. He doesn't
Mhm.
really go to Japan. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna win all the tournaments, but like he was so well trained because it is a fighting style that fits his body type.
Also, he's deceptively fast. He's had Muay Thai training. He's had other training as
Yeah.
well.
Well, actually, that is a thing with sumo wrestlers is that they can actually sprint super fast. They can only do it for a short amount of time, but like they could bolt, and so can Kingpin.
Well, Fisk is extremely ruthless too.
Mhm.
You have to. He's not the Kingpin of crime for nothing.
Sure.
I mean, even like during that situation where Captain America became Hydra Captain America,
Mhm.
he took advantage of the situation like any good villain.
Oh yeah.
And he started going around saving people, giving them medicine, helping out churches and shelters with his group of thugs, and telling them, one day I'll ask you for a favor, or one day I might need something.
Yeah.
Or remember who did this for you, and they elected him mayor.
And well, also he kind of keeps a lot of the other villains in check.
One thing I do appreciate about him,
Yeah.
like the animated series, that's why I love him. When that Hobgoblin came, started messing that up, which was coincidentally played by Mark Hamill.
Yep.
Yep. Before he did the Joker, I think, or right around the same time.
want to say
I think it was
Batman
before.
came out first.
Anybody out there, if you know,
I'm
let us
pretty
know.
sure Batman came out first because it came out right after the movie.
Yeah, but it came after part 2.
That's right.
Yeah, they came after part 2. Oh, that was a whole another thing.
Yeah. But you were mentioning Hobgoblin, so
Yeah,
what about
well-
Green Goblin, Hobgoblin?
Okay, it depends on what era of Spider-Man you read.
Mhm.
Okay, because some people, Hobgoblin is their goblin.
Yeah.
And other people, Green Goblin is their goblin. When I was reading, I had access to the older comics, all right?
Yeah.
But Osborn was dead at this point.
He had a tummy ache.
Yeah, we didn't know at this point. This was around the 90s where that he magically woke up, like later on in the stories, that he went to Paris, that he was Spider-Man's girlfriend, that fell off the bridge, Gwen Stacy. You know, spoilers, sorry. If you watch my show, there's constant spoilers, so I need to tell you now. Spoilers for everything else. If you don't like it, plug your ears and go, ah, la, 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 because there's going to be a lot of spoilers. The Green Goblin seems to have that, like ability to come back, but we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, and well, also with it seems to be part of his power set, also.
Yeah, but Harry Osborn was Green Goblin at this time, and that was one of the most depressing runs.
Well, it works because so much more close with the relationship with Peter.
I mean, like, it worked, but it just got to the point where it was too stretched out.
Yeah,
Like,
it
they could
felt,
have stopped it 20 issues ago, or,
it felt a lot more forced in the Sam Raimi movies than it did in the comics.
Well, I remember,
Well, I mean, had the events of the comics.
we were talking about Molten Man earlier.
Mhm.
He's actually part of the Osborn family.
I did
He's
not know
married
that.
into it. And they had this elaborate thing where Harry kidnaps his wife, his kid, Molten Man, all of them,
Yeah.
and has them in this real weird, macabre dinner,
Yeah.
And it was a son that actually knocked him out because he gave him the pumpkin bomb
Mhm.
as a gift. Like, it got really weird after a while.
Yeah.
So when the other Osborn died, I was actually very happy.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, all right, it's done. This is a point where not everybody came back from the dead at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This was like only Superman to come back at this point.
Yeah.
Like, only Superman. Like, there wasn't like constant resurrection.
Yeah, because like Elektra, I don't think even came back.
Yeah.
At that point.
Well, that's debatable. Frank Miller actually did a side story for a company where she was fighting through heaven,
Oh.
and somehow he got the rights for her, and he did like this little issue thing.
Yeah.
It's like one of those forgotten issues.
Yeah.
Really cool though. I if you guys know what it is, it escapes me right now. But like I said, let us know. We're all down for communication. But Hobgoblin was cool.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, like, I guess eventually he sells his soul to a demon.
Yeah, and then he becomes a Demogoblin? Is that?
Yeah, that was the name for it.
Yeah.
But I like the grassroots. I'm greedy.
Yeah.
I'm here to make some money.
Then there's Jack-O-Lantern, right?
Yeah. Oh, I almost forgot about him. Jack-O-Lantern. I actually want to get his toy and do that on one of my shows because he's such an interesting character.
Yeah.
He's sort of a Green Goblin knockoff, but not.
And he also dies. I believe Ghost Rider killed him. Like, I think that was a thing.
Yeah, I think he might have killed.
It
might be another Jack-O-Lantern
it
alive
was-
now, though.
Yeah, well, it's when Lucifer broke out of hell into 666
He was
pieces.
making those
One
deals.
of them was in Jack-O-Lantern,
Yeah.
and I think Ghost Rider took him out.
Okay.
I think he smashed his pumpkin.
Yeah,
His head.
That I believe.
Yeah.
Because I know he was in Civil War for a bit.
Yeah.
He was in that group. What were they called? The Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts?
Yeah. He was in that because he was one of the. I remember in Civil War, he was one of the characters that took down Spider-Man.
Mhm.
And I remember the whole time thinking, man, it's a bunch of B-listers that are literally kicking his ass.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
After all this-
Vermin defeated Spider-Man, and
That's true.
when you think of A-listers, you don't think of Vermin, but I mean,
Yeah, it is true.
he's Vermin. Why not?
Well, Spot actually kicked his ass, too. I mean, Spider-Man's had a few times where he's
Oh,
fell.
he very much so underestimates Spot. Well, the first time we saw Spot, he was on the ground, not the ground, but the top of the building, just laughing.
I think the cartoon did a great job in that character.
Mhm.
The original animated series.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not talking about Ultimate Spider-Man. There was an animated series before that. Although Ultimate Spider-Man was good in some ways.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't even got to the big ones yet.
Well, I
So
mean,
we're
we
just
talked
going
about
through.
Kingpin and then Green Goblin. That's nothing to sneeze at.
Oh yeah, that's true. But we're minor characters. God, he's had so many like minor villains.
Mhm.
You can have the Kangaroo,
Yep.
the Leaper. Like since we're talking about Ultimate Spider-Man, we was all I leap, I leap,
Yeah.
I leap.
And
That was so funny. That villain kind of wormed his way into my heart because he's just so annoying. You have to laugh at him,
yeah,
especially when they kick his ass. Because they always do.
yeah.
Uh,
And well, I mean, you were mentioning big ones. How about Doc Ock?
yeah.
I mean, he has a very close relationship in many different levels with Spider-Man.
Many different levels. Actually, in the What If issues, a little bit more than so. Dr. Otto Octavius, the Superior Spider-Man run, for example.
Yeah.
I was talking to you about that. I love the Superior Spider-Man run.
Sure.
I had my doubts at first. The whole mind switching thing has been done.
Yeah.
They did it really well. Otto's kind of good guy run made sense.
Yeah.
He was still an asshole.
Tried getting Peter Parker doctorates, if I remember correctly.
He did get his doctorate.
Oh, well, good for him.
Actually, Otto Octavius did more for Peter Parker than Peter Parker ever did for Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He got his doctorate. He got him a multi-million-dollar company. He made him rich.
Yeah.
He dated a beautiful midget chick. I mean, like he did so many things that Peter Parker never did before.
Yeah.
And then when they rebooted it, he lost it all.
Yeah.
Peter lost his PhD. Peter lost it. And I don't know. Like I think Otto did so much more for Peter that Peter never thought of. I think he hated Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I think he was frustrated that once he found out who Spider-Man was, that the unrealized talent in his pupil,
Yeah.
that he could have done so much more.
Yeah. And well, depending on the story, it's Dr. Octopus's ray that gets the spider radioactive that bites Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some stories do that, some stories do other
Yeah,
things.
of course, with all the recons.
But the general idea is there. But like having such a close connection with it being Doctor Octopus is also interesting. That before he really became a villain, he created the hero that will defeat him in the future.
Well, a point that you were actually bringing up is the actor's appearance in Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi's.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were right in that. I loved his performance.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was Otto.
You felt bad for him and you were kind of rooting for him, but then it's just like, no, this is not a good idea.
Yes, and then they had a puppeteer for each arm.
I did.
Yeah, I saw the special effects thing. They had the different names for the arms because different puppeteer.
Yeah.
And they had different personality traits. Like Sam Raimi actually thought out which arm would do this and which arm would talk to him, and
Yeah.
which I always thought was cool. It made sense because his arms are so much part of him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times where they surgically removed him and they escaped and then reattached to him.
Yeah.
I mean, really awesome. I love Otto. He's just one of those guys that seems to cheat death so much.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't sing that man's praises enough.
Well, especially for effectively just having a human body. It's not like he's the Rhino, so every punch that's gotta hurt. He's not really wearing body armor.
Yeah, that's the flaw. That's kind of what I like about him.
Yeah.
They brought him back to life. You know that? Hydra brought him back to life. So
Sounds like a Hydra thing to do.
Yeah, he has this Spider-Man costume, but he has the arms.
Yeah.
It actually looks pretty cool. I guess he's sort of running the show in Hydra now, which is good. I mean, it makes sense for him.
Yeah.
Kind of nice.
Have multiple heads, have multiple arms.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's see. We do have a lot of people on this list.
Well, I'm not quite done with Dr.
Go ahead.
Octopus.
Oh no, I can sing his praises. I can do a whole hour show about this man. That's what I'm trying to.
So his also connection with Aunt May. There's that. Yeah. Let's not forget about that little thing.
You're gonna kick Parker low. Watch.
Yeah.
Watch. You're gonna get a call from one of the Parkers.
That's fine. I mean, it was a thing. I mean,
you know what I'm gonna say this. Come deal with this, Peter.
So, yeah. I mean, just the connections run like I said, deep on so many different levels.
Yeah, sometimes he's polite to her. Sometimes she thinks he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes she hits on him.
Yeah.
And he's even bragged about that a few times in the comics, Your aunt adores me,
And, well, and also they had, in some sense, similar, not upbringings, but earlier lives where they were heavily bullied at school. They both were intelligent.
Yep.
But the big difference was Uncle Ben and Aunt May. Peter had that reinforcement of, great power comes great responsibility, eat your wheat cakes. And
well, in Superior Spider-Man, they talked about the abuse that Otto went through.
Yeah, so it's just that was the straw that broke the camel back that allowed Otto to become a villain while Peter becomes a hero. Because early on, like, Spider-Man easily could have been a villain or just not been a hero at all with his wrestling career. It was the death of...
Oh, and the Macho Man was in the first. I had to say that. I had to give a shout out to Macho Man. May he rest in peace. Randy Savage. Mwah. Many entertaining years, buddy. Thank you.
Oh,
yeah, I loved him. Oh, yeah. Doc Ock, he's just he was a woman's man too. Had a lot of women. You were mentioning Lady Octavius.
Oh yeah.
Since we're talking about characters people may or may not have heard of, care to give a little detail about her?
Well, I mean, it helps a lot more that in the new Spider-Verse movie that they had the female Dr. Octopus.
Yeah,
I liked it
her.
was the more sort of, I want to say like spongy tentacles, which is just like it felt like so much more newer tech instead of something that's more like
more nanotech.
Yeah. And so that was actually pretty interesting.
Well, I'm kind of like how they changed it because her character in the comics was a little bit different. She's more oogly eye and the arms are kind of weird.
Yeah.
I saw the way it worked in Spider-Verse. I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice twist. Could live with it.
Yeah. And it kind of makes more sense how they would be more elastic that way also.
Yeah. How they would stretch out.
Yeah.
Well, mechanics has done a lot of stuff from metallurgy and plastic now. So
yeah.
Especially with the ships. So, should we talk more about Doc Ock, or are we moving on to the next one?
I'll probably move on. I mean, I think we can easily get an hour, but we can also easily get 10 hours.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's one of those... He's like the Joker. Me and you can sit here and we can talk about the Joker until the cows come home.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so let's talk about maybe a smaller one. How about Mysterio?
Mysterio. Well, I want to say he's a smaller one because he's part of the Sinister Six, and he just has an iconic look with, like, the cape with the little eye things right here, and you can't really see his head. Well, his face, like it's a obscure.
I think he's going to be in the next movie.
The
Spider-Man.
Well, that's not
home.
even a Far From Home.
Far From Home, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's confirmed, right?
Yeah, isn't it Gyllenhaal? It's going to be in it. Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I mean, he's a great actor. Like, every time, like, I see him, it's like, but Donnie Darko, man. And, like, every time, it's just like, oh, no, he did good.
Well, no, I mean, like, I hate that movie, I'm not going to lie. Like, he did good in Zodiac.
I liked him in Prince of Persia. That was a surprisingly good video game movie.
Actually, that was pretty entertaining. I can't front. That was a lot more entertaining than some of the other video game movies, I'll tell you that.
But Mysterio, his power set is more of training and technique.
And illusions, too, those little illusion cubes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he played a big part in another character that we haven't really discussed, Wolverine, in the Old Man Logan series. He was the one that tricked Logan, spoilers, into killing his entire group of X-Men in that world. Because his illusions are so good that he couldn't tell the difference.
It happens.
With his senses, yeah.
Happened to Superman.
It did. Well, Superman's an idiot. That's another video.
I mean, well, modern Superman, Golden Age Superman, he's just as good as a scientist,
You understand my hatred for Kal-El. I've explained that before. But that's not what we're talking about.
Yes. We're talking about the villains.
Yes. What about the power set? What do you think?
It works because a lot of Spider-Man villains are very intelligent, deal with science because it matches Spider-Man a lot more.
Well, he was an actor too. He was like a stuntman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of cool that his technology actually came from that.
Yeah.
So some of it's actually Hollywood tricks. like the smoke things that come out of his fingers.
Yeah.
It really depends on what version of Mysterio, because he always has a trick up his sleeve.
Sure, like having copies of himself around, which is very ninja thing to do.
Yeah, I think he's sort of like the DC version of the pranks or the trickster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, except he has more of a dramatic tone. He has a more of a Shakespearean tone.
Well, I feel like you could combine a bunch of DC villains that are very similar, and that would make Mysterio. That's how good Mysterio's at it. Because, like, even, what was it, Firebug? He was a pyrotechnician.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, no, Mysterio does that. Mysterio does, like, what anyone else similar does, except better.
You know, we were talking about this earlier, and we might as well, like, talk about this now. Mysterio is one of those people that was backed by, not a villain, but certainly a pain in the ass to Spider-Man, J. Jonah Jameson.
Probably Spider-Man's greatest villain, if you think about it. Because in many ways, what makes it so hard to deal with him is he's not wrong. Like, if you put a lot of his information in real world thing, if a person was swinging around New York with a mask, even though he's saving the day, it's just like,
But Jonah had a thing against masked people because I guess his wife was murdered by a villain with a mask.
Yeah,
So it depends on what origin.
Yeah, they do different stories with that, but the same general idea where, like, masked people are cowards. They are afraid to show their faces.
Yeah.
And they detract from the real heroes, like police officers, people in the
like
military.
the Avengers, since they're sponsored by the government, because he was a real good booster for them for a while.
Yeah.
The thing about Jameson is he always seems to back the wrong horse.
Yeah.
Like, he's so obsessed with Spider-Man, like in the cartoon, he sponsored the Scorpion. Like, he backs a lot of the villains, or somehow Spider-Man ends up working with it. He twists his journalisms.
Yeah.
Like, Spider-Man can never catch a break, and I guess he is a villain in the sense that he's just a complete one-sided asshole.
Yeah.
And I guess he represents, like, the demographic of parents that just don't understand.
Yeah. And
especially in the 60s, you know, he was like that authority figure.
Yeah. And supposedly he's somewhat of a reflection to a certain book that, let's face it, really ruined the comic industry to a point where it has still never recovered from it. I don't want to talk about that book
but
too much.
Nowadays, Jameson had like an understanding with Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think his dad at one point was married to Aunt May.
Aunt May gets around. I mean, Ben evidently was a great catch, so
Really?
And was attracted to.
I guess like it was during like some of the new stuff, so Jameson's stance kind of softened on him.
Yeah.
Like, it really depends on when and where you're reading, but Jameson has always been like one of those outspoken people.
Yeah.
When it comes to Spider-Man, good or bad, and he's always that critic.
Yeah.
It never seems to give him a break.
And so while he might be Spider-Man's one of his greatest villains, not as much for Peter Parker.
Sort of.
I mean, because, like, that's how Peter got so much of his revenue, just to try to pay the rent.
Well, there was times where Peter was busted, and Jameson actually paid the bills for his court thing. Jameson always had this love for Peter.
Yeah.
And I keep harking back to this, but it's such a pivotal moment in Marvel when they made Spider-Man take off his mask.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's just a little panel where Jameson's just sitting there, and like, Brant comes in, and she's like, Mr. Jameson, like, Miss Brant, if you talk again, I will fire you on the spot. You know, right when he's about to take off his mask, he takes off his mask, Jameson's all.
Yeah.
That was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
It was the little things. Civil War had a lot of parts that were wrong with it, but there were little things that I treasured in that, and that was just one of those, until Spider-Man sold his soul to the devil. And
was it Spider-Man or was it Mary Jane?
does it really matter?
No,
it was Peter Parker. Well, I don't. It was both of them.
Yeah.
They both know.
Yeah.
In this reality, they both know.
Yeah.
You know.
And it was Mephisto?
Yeah, it was Mephisto. Yeah, he took his fisto and he up Spider-Man's history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
one more day.
It kind of shows that it was a mistake to do it. Like, either they own up to doing that decision and just keep on going with it, or they shouldn't have done it.
Well, they said Spider-Man was too old. And I guess at that point you can sort of understand. But now there's no reason for it. I mean, comic book people, ladies and gentlemen, thieves and crooks, hoodlums of all ages, we have Miles.
Yes.
The Spider-Verse has arrived. We have the younger Spider-Man, and a very good Spider-Man, I might add.
Yeah.
So why can't we bring the Parker factor back?
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool. They have the daughter, May. I love Spider-Girl. Have you read the Ultimate Spider-Girl series?
Mayday Parker.
Yes. I loved that series. Great series.
And it's also just great. It's the future where Peter Parker and
she
Mary
lost
Jane.
a leg in that one too.
Yeah, and he became was it a detective?
He became like a high-ranking forensic analyst,
Yeah,
scientist. Yeah, captain. Yeah, he
finally got a job.
Yeah, he married Mary Jane. He was living the good. You know.
And so they had a daughter, Mayday Parker, who went to high school. She was part of the basketball team. She actually had a life, but then, fought villains and teamed up with a bunch of heroes. Mainframe, who was the future Iron Man, that was just a computer controlling the armor. There was a Hobgoblin that was a hero that was Ben Urich.
He was a Green Goblin actually.
Okay.
Then he became like a well guy, Echo or some weird. And he became a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But absolutely great series, underrated. I want to say, was that spin-off from...
It was a future series they did.
Yeah, but it was created by... Was it not Heroes Reborn? Was it Heroes Reborn?
No, it was like a Marvel 2.
Yeah.
That's what they called it.
Yeah, like they had a different Juggernaut and stuff like that. Yeah, the son of
Juggernaut.
Yeah, so... And a lot of that stuff fell flat, but the reason that Spider-Girl kept on going is it did not.
People loved it, yeah. It was a well-written story.
Yeah.
It was one of those, I thought it was going to suck. Like, when I was a kid, I bought the first issue, and then I was hooked.
Yeah, and I like to think it eventually leads into the 2099 series, because it's starting to get there in the timeline. Like, it felt like that with...
I love Doom 2099.
Yeah. There's, like, the Spider-Girl future, 2099, and there's, like, something that happens in between.
2099.
But, yeah, so, next...
See, that was our tangents that we keep.
I am not done with J. Jonah Jameson. Going back to the Raimi movies. The Raimi movies.
The man that played him.
Oh no, I'm brain farting.
J.K. Simmons.
Yes, who's done amazing work on so many things. He
voiced
Tenzin in Legend of Korra.
Oh, he was also in Justice League too. He played the voice of the General.
Okay.
Task Force X.
Oh yeah, and he became that like really buff villain that fought all the B and C rate heroes.
Yeah. He's been in a lot of different cartoons. I mean, he's done a lot of... Marvel and DC has taken care of that man.
Yes, but he did such a great... First off, they were making him look like him with the moustache, but yeah.
It didn't take much.
And one last thing with Jameson. Good for the news industry or bad?
Okay, I'm a answer. I think he was good, and that he had scruples in certain ways.
Oh yeah, he hunted down fast.
You know, he was right wing, but when he fucked up, he did his retractions. To a point.
Yeah.
And my closing thought about Jameson, since we brought him up, is one of my favorite Jameson moments is during the Sam Raimi movies when they're like, it's just a small little thing where he's having a bad day and Brant walks in and goes, well, guess what, boss? Your wife lost her credit card. She's all, thanks for the good news. Just like such an asshole to the point, know. I love Jameson.
Well, I think one of my favorite parts with him in that movie is, I want to say, was it Green Goblin or was it Venom? Who popped in?
Green Goblin, where he wouldn't give up his source.
Yeah, well, he popped in, and it's just like, who does the photography? He's like, I don't know. I'm just gonna. And Peter Parker's right there. He could have just like, there he is.
That's his integrity as a reporter.
Yeah,
he has his own set of rules.
Yeah,
as misguided as they are a set of rules.
But like, he did it on a drop of a dime. Where it's like, I don't know, because like, he could have easily looked at Peter Parker like, but no, it's just like he is such a professional at his job.
Yeah, I do like that about Jameson. Yeah. All right, let's see. From our honorable mentions, we're gonna go to, how about the Lizard?
The Lizard.
Connors.
once again, going back to the science aspect, and
Dr.
once
Connors.
again, knows Peter Parker and Spider-Man just like Doc Ock on it's just so many levels.
Yeah, it's just funny. Like early on, a lot of the villains. If you go to the Steve Ditko thing, like I talked about my Iron Man or my Sandman video, a lot of them they seem to be people he sort of known, met, kind of ran
Yeah,
into. The Lizard's just one of those other people. Kind of a classic Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde
yeah,
scenario.
and he's also one of those good people with amazing intentions, and it just went awry. But with the tech of regeneration, it
Well, the
could
road to
potentially
hell.
work. Or since with the military constantly looking for a super soldier serum, if they could tweak it to where they don't become bestial or savage, like it could just be like, oh yeah, no, we have a army of the lizards. I mean, the lizard can make them.
He actually tried doing that in the Spider-Man cartoon
Yeah,
a few times in the comics too. I don't know. The whole super soldier thing is an entire big bag of cats.
it's a MacGuffin. It's just like, oh yeah, this
Well,
was created because Super Soldier Captain America.
well, they said Wolverine wasn't Weapon X; he was Weapon 10.
Well, he was the 10th one.
Yeah, I know. It's just it's. I
That's
liked
why he's Weapon X.
I liked Weapon X a lot better than Weapon 10. Back when there was no explanation.
What number was Deadpool? Was he 18? No, that's too high.
You never know. Maybe 13.
Yeah.
Sounds like Deadpool.
You know it's past 10.
Well,
It's not
yeah.
before then. Because Sabretooth was number 9, right? He's like right
Yeah, he was. Well, the thing about Connors is like Sabretooth, he has a regeneration, but
Mhm.
only in lizard form. I mean,
Yeah.
like he lost his arm, and that's what got him into it. He was trying to regenerate like the lizards do.
Well, and intriguingly enough, when he goes back to human, the arm goes away, and it's just like, oh, that sucks. It's just like, the arm was made. Why would you undo that healing
Yeah, it
factor?
reverts all the way back. The lizard giveth, and the lizard taketh
Yeah,
away.
but I mean, wall climbing, super strength, but also super strong tail. Like,
yeah,
that's just a club.
a love for flesh.
Mhm.
Depending on which lizard you get.
Looks good in a
intelligent.
lab coat. Not all villains can pull that off.
Yep. Sometimes intelligent, sometimes not. It depends.
Yeah.
That's the thing about the lizard. Sometimes he's a hero.
Sure.
I think in the Secret Wars they made him a hero, or they gave him his intelligence back for a brief time in the Secret Wars,
Mhm.
and he actually joined the good guys.
Sure. Well, because not in normally innately a villain. A lot of times just doing lizard things. Although when the lizard does tend to have some intelligence, it does tend to be bad. But like Connors himself is good.
Yeah, it was like the Incredible Hulk thing. It's like two distinct personalities,
Mm.
different sides. Just the lizards is a lot more darker.
What happens to Connor? Like they don't throw him in jail, do they?
Sometimes they like it depends on when he gets arrested, what year. Sometimes he's in jail, sometimes he's not.
Yeah. Because it seems it's not as
Sometimes
much
he's
unfair. It's
cured.
understandable, but it's just like, come on.
It depends on who catches him. If it's Spider-Man, he just drops him off back at the house,
Yeah.
like dropping off some alcoholic from a long day at the bar. Cork, I'm looking at you, buddy. Thanks for the ride.
All right. So
Now
Next
the lizard we covered.
Oh.
Who would you like to talk about?
let's see here. Well, let's go with a lot of people's favorite, Venom.
Oof. Venom.
I mean, all these characters can have an episode of their own, but Venom could have 3-4 episodes of their own.
Well, let's just get over the basics. We know the guy that invented Spawn
He
also had a lot to do with Venom.
has a thing with a sort of like a buddy system symbiote thing. I mean, Spawn's effectively the same way as kind of a living suit. I think McFarlane tried doing another recent series where it was very similar.
Well, look at Witchblade.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, for the symbiote, in case you guys didn't know, it made his appearance also in the Secret Wars
Mhm.
from this weird machine. And I'm going to skip the whole Deadpool bullshit where he got the costume first and then he gave it to Spider-Man and blah, blah, blah.
So, what it's kind of explained in the Secret Wars is the villains and heroes had their own bases, and at the basement of the base, there was this machine. And what everyone thought was, whatever you needed, it made it. So Captain America needed his shield, so it's just like, oh, it makes the shield. And Spider-Man needs a suit. What it ends up, it doesn't make it. It teleports it to them or the closest thing to it.
Yep.
So Captain America didn't know there was no shield on a shield carrier, the espionage shield, and so it teleported it to him. Spider-Man, he had no extra suits, he had no extra web shooters, and the machine's like, well, we'll just get you something that will be able to do it for you, and that's the symbiote.
Yep, the black suit.
Mm-hmm.
And most people had doubts about the black suit. I mean, I loved it. It was sleek, original. It gave Spider-Man more like flair and being dark at the same time.
Sure.
And comics were moving in that general direction.
Yeah.
Right around the time Dark Knight came out.
Probably easier to draw for the artists.
A
Just
lot
the
easier.
little meta thing, because it's just like, just black it in, except for these spots where it's kind of like more blue and white.
Yeah, and later on it became the symbiote.
Yeah.
Which Spider-Man realizes when he goes to the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it taken off during that whole Bell thing.
Yeah.
And then it bonds to Eddie.
Yes. And in a very intense scene, actually.
Yeah.
Like
not the intense crap scene that Eric Foreman did in Spider-Man 3.
Topher Grayson. Yeah.
Oh, you mean Eric Foreman?
Yes.
He doesn't like being called Eric Foreman. So Eric Foreman, he will be called.
But, like, if that happened to me, I'd be screaming like, "Ah!" It's just like black goo is falling on me. And it's like, Eddie Brock handled it surprisingly well.
I've had stranger things happen.
And, well, the symbiote suit seems to especially like Eddie Brock. And I think part of it is the shared hatred for Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Well, yeah. Well, a little background on Eddie Brock. Besides, if you just seen the movie, he was worked for the planet. He got screwed over. He blamed Spider-Man for a lot of things. His wife had just left him.
Yeah.
He'd actually come to that church to commit suicide, not damn Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And that the symbiote felt the pain and bonded to him.
Yeah. And actually there was a very interesting issue where they were on an island. It was Spider-Man who brought Human Torch because symbiotes don't do well against fire.
Fire and sound, yeah.
Especially during that time. So I think he had a sound gun that Mr. Fantastic Four makes.
Yes, this is where we see Venom's camouflage ability for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Which the symbiote, some symbiotes have different powers.
Yeah. And so, like, they were having trouble fighting because I think got the Human Torch into the ocean, which I don't think is actually a problem for Human Torch. Like, he's that powerful, but for the comic book story, it was an issue.
Well, I have a theory about that. You're only as strong as your mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if he panics as a human,
Sure, I mean, going against Venom, I'd panic too.
and someone grabs your leg out and then pulls you in the ocean,
Yeah, but busted the sound gun, and like Spider-Man, it's just like, oh no, I'm not doing well in this fight. Venom is going to kill me, or like at least seriously injure me. And he goes like, he talks to the symbiote, not Eddie Brock. It's like, oh,
come to me.
yeah, it's like, who do you want to be with? That person, or do you want to be with Spider-Man? Like, you enhance the person. Be with me. And the symbiote's like, yeah, and tries jumping to Peter Parker, but because it was so hurt by being departed from Peter that it actually bonded to Eddie, and it actually hurt itself trying to rip itself apart from Eddie, trying to get to Peter Parker, and actually failed separating and end up knocking themselves out.
I think Eddie was the symbiote's true love.
Yeah.
Because the symbiote bounced around. I mean, since we're talking about Venom, Scorpion had become Venom for a while during the Dark Avengers run.
Yeah.
There was Flash Thompson, Agent Venom.
Sure. Actually, right before Scorpion, it was a mafia guy's son. But, like, he died, like, instantly. Like, the symbiote's like, no, you're a loser. Yep. And, like, was jumping from building to building and just debonded from him. And the guy just fell.
Well, yeah, that proves that only a certain person can handle the symbiote.
Sure.
Depending on the symbiote.
Views the person as weak. It did not view Eddie Brock as weak.
Nope. And it was more of a partnership with Flash Thompson, Agent Venom, who was a bully. Since we're talking about villains, early on in the career of Spider-Man, he was Spider-Man's high school bully. I guess you could call him the high school
Peter
villain.
Parker's high school bully.
Yeah.
but I thought Spider-Man was just amazing.
Yeah, his hero.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny.
So the irony, that was actually pretty great
Yeah,
writing.
but
Well, it's just, once again, parallels, similar things with J. Jonah Jameson and with Flash Thompson. It's just like,
well, Thompson had been through a lot. He had his legs blown off. You know,
Yep.
he for his service, he got the symbiote. He learned how to control it.
Yeah.
He had a great run in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
The whole Venom run. That was actually pretty cool. Venom has done a lot of stuff. It's returned to Eddie, which is nice. Eddie was anti-Venom for a while.
Sure.
And since we're on the symbiote thing, we might as well head into Carnage.
Yeah, I mean, once
Cletus
again,
Cassidy.
could do more things with Venom, but like don't want to throw everything out. But
Oh, we can say here the movie was wonderful. Since we're going to throw that out, I like the movie. What about you?
the third movie?
The Venom movie.
Oh, the Venom movie. I actually haven't seen it yet.
Ooh, it's actually pretty good. It gives you more of an alien feel than a comic book movie.
They have Bryant as the villain, interestingly enough, who is not a Spider-Man villain, but a...
You know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. I've seen some
really
stupid
Venom,
stuff.
I guess kind of a villain. He didn't live long enough for it to be a
Yeah,
thing.
I'll take it. I mean, it was okay. The whole dialogue between Eddie and the symbiote in the movie was good.
Yeah.
That's what was good about it. But let's talk about Cletus. Carnage.
So... God, where to start? Okay, so Cletus Cassidy is effectively a villain himself, like a normal
Serial
if you say
killer.
normal. Yeah, he's a serial killer.
Everyday average serial killer.
He murdered his family. Like,
Burned
so
them to
he
the
was
fucking ground.
in the basement playing with his mom's dog with power tools. The mom goes down, freaks out, and like starts smacking Cassidy around. The dad goes,
Yep.
"I was like, what are you doing?" And then he starts beating the mom, and it was bloody. And the way that his mind works when he was talking to police afterwards, he was telling them the truth, and the way that he was seeing it, and it was absolutely true, but it was also like it is easily interpreted as, oh no, it's not the kid, it's everybody else.
And eventually he ended up escaping, killing more people.
Yeah.
And he got caught, and he ended up Eddie Brock's cellmate.
Were they cellmates or were they cells next to
They
each
were
other?
cellmates.
Okay, well that's
This-
not the best cellmates.
The symbiote came for Eddie. The symbiote has this thing where it multiplies asexually like worms.
Mhm.
It left the goo behind. It bonded to Cassidy.
Mm.
And it liked Cassidy's personality, the serial killer thing,
Yes.
and it became a complete killing machine called Carnage.
Yeah, and when they reproduce asexually, it is a new entity.
Yes.
Like, it's not like, oh, it's just a copy of the original.
No.
It is new.
It gets somewhat new abilities.
Yeah,
and it's
it
slightly
gets
stronger
a
at times.
lot of the older ones, but, like, it's also dictated on the new host as well.
Yes, and one thing that we haven't mentioned about the symbiotes is it has an anti-spider sense.
Yes, because it was bonded to Spider-Man and
Yes.
it knows how it works. I think if a symbiote that wasn't familiar or from that
Yeah,
lineage,
yeah.
it wouldn't be able to do
Yeah,
that.
because it takes on traits. Yeah, it has to be from the lineage.
Yeah.
But the thing about Carnage, instead of shooting webs, it shoots its own goo. It makes knives,
Does
stabbing
it
weapons.
shoot? I guess it does. They're kind of more
Yeah,
tendrils.
but it's an extension of the symbiote.
Yeah.
Where the spider stuff comes from fire or cells, like dead cells,
Yeah.
basically from venom.
And on an off note, Taskmaster, when he was doing some web slinging for a while, it was actually the Venom style and not
Yeah,
the Spider-Man style.
which was cool. I always liked that style.
Yeah.
Carnage kills a bunch of people. He's gone on several killing sprees. The Maximum Carnage issues, I highly recommend.
Yeah. A pain in the butt game.
Mm-hmm. Very pain in the butt game.
Yes.
Yes, that game was a pain in the ass. Carnage, I highly recommend looking up. He's more of a visual character.
I mean, cannot stress enough on how cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs he is.
How much he enjoys killing.
and then murders the bird for those Cocoa Puffs. It's just
Exactly.
killing is always on his mind, especially when it comes to Spider-Man. It's just like it's how his brain works. He always thinks about murdering Spider-Man, and he has murder boner for him.
Oh, he has a murder boner for anyone or anything that will get into his path.
I
Sure.
mean,
There was a what if issue where what if Carnage took over a
The
Silver
Silver
Surfer.
Surfer.
Yep. the murder spree on that was just wonderful.
Yeah.
I cannot talk about how awesome that was. Carnage, though, is a very interesting character.
Mhm.
I do like the idea of a serial thing. He did bond to Ben Riley for a while.
Okay.
That was interesting to have the go between them. The symbiotes bounce back and forth, but it always seems to end up to Cassie. The interesting thing is, it's bonded to his blood,
Yes.
his cells. That's
And
a unique thing.
That's why when I was about to say Hyperion, that's not right. When Sentry flew Carnage to space, like ripped him in half, it's like, that ain't no thing.
Mm-hmm. He's one of those ones you know will always be back.
Yeah.
So let's see. We covered a lot on our list so far.
We might have to dedicate an episode to symbiotes.
We
It's
might.
just like,
We might have
there's
to.
so much to talk about. Even the ones where
Even
they
the-
were barely in it, it's like,
Even the Venom symbiote thing too.
yeah.
Oh man, the whole
I
symbiote
mean,
war.
There was like 5 seconds it was bonded to Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and then they were nuked. That was
the
the thing.
invasion. Let's cover him real quick. The Sandman. We did that on the show.
So I need everyone's help. It's been a long time since I've read the first appearance. I'm pretty sure Spider-Man tried beating Sandman with a power drill. If that worked, he would have killed him, but it didn't work because he's sand.
Yeah. He's one of those versatile characters. His weakness is usually water, sometimes fire. If you could turn him into glass.
I'm sure.
Yes. If you watch my show that I did on him, my character profile, What's Up Sandman? If you want a little more dirt on him, literally.
Yeah.
And he's just basically a big earth elemental.
And since we've mentioned it so many times, Sam Raimi movies.
Mm.
He was easily the best part of the third
He
movie.
was the best part of the movie. They should have just did his character and maybe the Green Goblin arc.
I mean, he was sympathetic. They had him kill Uncle Ben. And,
Yeah.
Well, he was an accomplished, but
That
like
was a
he
nice
felt
callback.
remorse for it.
Yeah.
And it's
The apology felt genuine at the end.
he just wanted to be with his family. Like you just feel it, and it's just like
They did a great job with his powers too, and the actor that played him did a very good job too. What he had to work with.
yeah. I mean, size manipulation based off of what he has, and it feels like that he should be expanded more as he develops just in life of doing like more Earth stuff. Like I'd like to just see like him Sandman, but why can't he just have a bunch of big jaggedy boulders and just like slam that?
He's
into
done stuff like that.
Okay,
His powers have actually grown. Like I said, there's a lot of earth manipulation,
I'm sure.
sand manipulation. He can bring himself back from a grain.
Yeah,
He's done a lot of different stuff like that.
and actually, a lot of times how Spider-Man villains develop is because like Sandman, like he's a thug, but he's kind of just a regular guy. But when they're in jail, all the villains talk to each other, and like
Yep.
Doc Ock, super smart. I mean, just all of them so smart. All they have to do is like, your powers could work like this. You should try that sometime.
And that's why they consider prison college, folks.
For super villains, at least.
Yep.
I mean, it's just like it depends what you're trying to get educated on.
Yep.
Yeah, he is
Hold on a
actually
minute.
a character.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. Yes. Okay. I don't care. It's my show. So? I don't care. All right. I don't care. Okay. Yes. Yeah. They want us to stick to the classics. I'll give them the usual answer. Sir, you're breaking up. I'm crossing through dimensional. We are in the middle of. See ya. And okay.
The cell reception nowadays, they never buy it.
I know, huh? We are back. We had a call from the multi-dimensional bureau, and apparently we've been talking about minor characters too much, but we don't give a damn. This is our show. This is the way we're gonna do it.
Also,
There's-
they don't know anything. Minor characters, Venom, Dr. Octopus. I mean, who do they want us to talk about?
Of course. And plus, we haven't even got halfway through this.
Well, how about Chameleon, where was in the very first issue of Amazing Spider-Man as a cameo appearance, and she ended up in the last page. which is another intelligent villain, which it's just more of Spider-Man has to put on his detective cap more than anything else. I mean, in a fistfight, Chameleon's not going to win.
But his spider sense, though, also kind of gave him the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. The thing about Chameleon is I recognized him more in the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
The belt was cool. I mean, in the comics, it was cool. He had a mask thing.
Yeah.
It always reminded me of Zoltan. What's the guy's name? Zoltan from G.I. Joe. He did the same thing where he had a mask, kind of he pull away thing.
Yeah.
Which I thought it was okay, but I liked him a lot better in the cartoon. He was related. Oh, he's related to another supervillain, I think.
I don't recall. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. The family ties of supervillains, just like heroes, it's all up in the air.
But it's not just good enough to look the part. His acting and immersion of the individual, it's just like, it's 99% on point. It can't be 100% because he hasn't lived their life.
Yeah.
Like Aunt May can tell the difference.
Well, he
between
doesn't
Peter
absorb their
and
memories. I mean.
Yeah. But he, can tell the difference between her own nephew and Chameleon.
What do you think it is, like a heart light generator? Like, he just pushes a button and, like, boom, he turns into it. So I think, like, he, like, bends the light around him to, like, take shape.
I have no idea how his tech works. Because it's tech. It's not like he's Mystique or anybody like that.
That's what I'm saying. It must be some kind of, like, heart light, like, tech.
Yeah, and well, sometimes it's just the mask and not the body.
Yeah.
While other times it is.
Well, I was talking about the show, how he had that, like, cool little belt.
Yeah.
Like I said, I always liked that version a lot better.
Yeah.
Because, like, the one in the comics always struck me as, like, the James Bond kind of 70s, like, all of a sudden.
Yeah, and, it was a rubber mask.
Yeah, like the whole spy motif.
Yeah.
Which was interesting, but for me, it didn't do it.
And, like, he doesn't really fit well enough as a Spider-Man villain, sadly enough. Like, he could actually be... No, he couldn't be a Daredevil villain now I think about it.
No,
Daredevil sees through it.
But
and Punisher shoots too fast, so...
Punisher just shoots and doesn't ask questions.
Yeah.
He's another one who was sort of a villain that went into Spider-Man. Frank Castle had his first appearance in Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
One of the very interesting issue. You could tell that man kicked ass. Only a man like that can make white go-go boots work with a black costume.
Yeah, and what made him decide to take the job? Because it does seem like an unusual job. Like he had to think Spider-Man was bad.
We have to go back to Jameson.
Oh,
and all the
Spider-Man's greatest villain.
Yep, all the bad
We
press.
got to do a top 10, and he needs to be number one. He created most of, not most, but many of Spider-Man's villains.
Like Jameson's unfavorable editorials actually led him to thinking that he was a menace.
Okay.
And that's actually what keeps Spider-Man out of the Avengers for so many years.
That's how convincing he is. He's so good at his job.
I know that man can sell ice to Eskimos.
I mean, Spider Slayer, Scorpion, which we'll need to talk to about eventually.
We really need to hire a version of him as our media consultant.
I mean, he might do too good of a job if that makes any sense.
I just had Bruce on the phone. Oh, the hell with it.
But, yeah, I guess since we was talking about issue 1, how about issue 2, The Vulture?
Ooh, the Vulture.
I mean, Spider-Man punching an old man. What do you think?
Well, he's an old man that kind of discovered the fountain of youth only for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
The original Vulture kind of absorbs people's youth and becomes young for a short time.
Yeah.
And then he reverts back to the old man that he was. He has a flight pack, I believe.
Yeah, so it's...
You have to tear out his back.
And, it's interesting because you have to tear out the back and wings that now he has sort of like a second layer system where it's kind of like also like the shoes and stuff like that. He doesn't fly that well with it. It's slower and cumbersome. But, yeah, like it's a whole suit package. And it's great that when they started getting away from his feathered look and more of a mechanical look, that looked cool and menacing.
And it had razor wings, too, which gave him another, weapon.
Yeah, I mean, he just needs to, go more with the helmet. It's just like old man getting punched in the head by Spider-Man. Not great.
I'm going to tell you, Vulture was one of those characters I didn't like. And we talked about this before. I didn't like him in the comic books. It wasn't because he was old. I just thought he was just one of those easily dispatched villains.
Yeah.
Like the glue guy in Ultimate Spider-Man. You know, he was just one of the guys like, oh, rookie villain, bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
But Michael Keaton, oh my God, he did such a good job in redoing that character, and it made sense that
Yeah.
he stole technology from it. I
Sure.
love Michael Keaton's. I cannot rave enough about that man's performance. Only, only Michael Keaton can give a "stay away from my daughter" speech and "I am the bad guy" speech all
Yeah.
at the same time. I that was a
Well,
mwah.
I mean, in a sense, he did have a lot to work with because Vulture isn't a great villain, but he is actually a really good character. I mean, he's, I guess, a poor man's Osborn, but Osborn's a great character.
I love the way they rewrote him. I mean, like whoever did Homecoming did a great job because I don't like some of the revamps they did.
Mhm.
You know, like Black Widow. You know, granted, you know it's nice that
Scarlett Johansson.
yeah, I'm not gonna say Miss Johansson, but it's nice that she has big boobs, but she doesn't can't nail an accent worth a damn. Considering that Black Widow's
Yeah.
from Russia,
I mean, in America, so much so.
she
might not
was
wanna
raised
do
in
that.
Russia. One of her signature things was the Russian accent.
Yeah.
You know, just throwing that out there. But yeah, this character he does a great job with the part. Keaton, and I don't know, like making him a little younger too, giving him like the lost technology, the alien stuff,
Mhm.
and not. This is one of those times where the suit it was better without the suit.
Mhm.
I like the full body wing set.
Yeah.
You know, I love that. I love that he was a father trying to make ends meet,
Yeah.
and he was taking care of his men. That was another thing that I appreciate because Toombs in the comic was very greedy, very cutthroat.
Sure.
You know, which was a time of the greedy businessman. You know,
Yeah.
Lex Luthor archetype. I liked that he took care of his men.
Yeah.
And he stole, yes, he stole, but he stole enough for his men to support themselves. He stole enough for their families to be fed. He brought food to the table.
Yeah.
And I ask you, isn't that what a family man's supposed to do?
Sure.
I have mad respect for Keaton as the Vulture. I cannot sing that man's praises enough. I hope he's in another Spider-Man movie.
Sure.
Oh my God! Like,
I mean, they well, for decade and a half they've been wanting to make a Sinister Six movie. In
that
some
would be
shape or
great.
form.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Maybe have him as.
I mean, they're going to have Mysterio. They're going to. They've already had Vulture. I mean, the pieces are already starting to get there.
I like I said, I can't rave enough about Michael Keaton as Vulture. He made the movie for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Grant, I'm not saying the actor that didn't play Spider-Man. He did a great job. I love the fact that, you know, good old Iron Man made his appearance, but the villain was just so well done.
Yeah.
So well, and picking Keaton was just gold.
Yeah.
I mean, with Keaton, you just got to turn the camera on and roll. I mean, another superhero movie, semi-superhero movie is Birdman.
Mhm.
Recommend seeing that. Another great performance.
Amazing directing. A great performance by him and I'm brain farting on her name. She's an amazing actress.
Yeah, I don't know her name yet. I'm brain
She was
farting
in
as well.
Easy
Oh yes.
A. I'll figure it out later. But as far as Vulture, he does, depending on the writer, he doesn't actually get that much respect from the other villains either.
No, he doesn't.
You know, it's just like, oh, you know, why can't you do this faster or it's wrong or, you know.
Well, because he's kind of like the throwaway villain.
Well, he kind of helps bankroll the Sinister Six a little bit. Like, he is the richest one. I mean, depending on, once again, who's writing, he gets his money from, you know, power such as nuclear power plants. You know, he owns those as well as dealing with weapons.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. Like, we actually do a list on villains and heroes that actually sell weapons on the side
Mm-hmm.
or make weapons on the side. That'd be a hell of a long list.
I mean, Fisk, like,
Oh yeah, Fisk is the man when it comes to
yes.
certain things.
I mean, keep him so good. We could probably
Osborn too.
Yeah.
Osborn would be another
Well,
one.
I mean, that's actually his big thing. Like, that is his thing.
Stark.
Yep.
Because even though Stark says in the movies, in the comics, he still sells weapons to S.H.I.E.L.D.
Sure.
So, don't believe everything you hear Tony say. But speaking of Parker, Parker seems to have like an odd relationship with a lot of the characters, but like we've been talking about the chameleon and Vulture. He didn't really have a relationship with until the movie.
Yeah.
Which I was wondering how they were going to do that.
Yeah.
Like I went into Homecoming with a lot of different questions when they picked. Like I wasn't worried about the actor.
Mm-hmm.
And in case you kids don't know who Michael Keaton is, I'm gonna give you a little taste of his career. He was in Beetlejuice.
So good.
He was in the Tim Burton's Batman.
Also really good. He did both a good Batman and a good Bruce Wayne.
Yes. Actually, I love my favorite scene that he did as Bruce Wayne was when he was having dinner with Alfred with Vicky Val.
Mm-hmm.
Very in a very small room in Wayne Manor. And yeah, I think he brought like that character, like he becomes the character in a way. Mm-hmm. If you give him a good role to sink his teeth into, he becomes the character. And he was really good at playing that average Joe guy that got screwed over by Tony Stark. Because they did get screwed over by Stark. And he was just fighting for his family. He was fighting for his boys, And I love the Vulture character. I hope to see him in more movies.
Yeah.
I know Keaton's always down to do something interesting. Mm-hmm. Keaton's actually down to do a second part of Beetlejuice. Saying that for years.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Keaton as the Vulture again. If they did the Sinister Six movie, dude, that would be even more awesome.
I mean, they've been wanting to make it. I mean, for a decade and a half, they've been wanting to do an Aquaman movie. DC's been wanting to, and they finally did it.
Well, they mentioned it in Entourage all those years ago. I don't know if you ever seen that show.
Mm-mm.
You never seen Entourage?
No, sorry.
Oh well, it's an alright show, but they actually have one of the actors do an Aquaman movie where James Cameron was the director.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of odd.
Yeah.
I guess James Cameron has a thing about water.
I mean, he could have potentially done it.
Well, he did raise the bar in South Park.
What else do we got? Oh, Rhino.
Oh, the
Rhino.
So,
I mean, okay, so he's not one of the intelligent villains, sort of like Scorpion, that he's one of the brutes.
Yeah, he's not known for his wide array of intelligence.
So, is it AIM that gave him his powers? Or?
Yeah, I think it was AIM. It was like a suit that he ends up permanently trapped in.
I want to say it wasn't originally AIM. I think it was Retcon, and then it was forgotten, and then it was just a generic company. It flip-flops, depending on the writer.
Yeah. I think in the cartoon series it was Jonah. Like, Jonah sponsors a lot of these guys in the cartoons.
I'm telling you, Spider-Man's greatest villain.
We need to do, like, a thing on strictly the cartoon series and focus on Jonah as the villain. Mm-hmm. Like, do a whole episode where, is Jonah the villain?
Yeah. So, the Rhino, his most common and original iteration is that he got rhino skin grafted to him, but he also had rhino DNA plugged into him, but in a way where it works.
Yeah, and the suit became permanent. It fused to his skin.
But, like, he's more buff than Rhino. I mean, he can charge through solid brick wall buildings with ease.
Well, yeah, he's also given the Hulk a run for his money at times.
Yeah.
Iron Man, he's fought a lot of different people. For being a moron, he's actually fought a nice cornucopia of heroes.
And all he does is run forward. I mean, he goes for punches once. Well, I'm surprised he doesn't go for more, like, sort of like a donkey kick, but
you gotta stick with what works, I guess.
Yeah. So I was mentioning this to you earlier. Probably one of the best books with Rhino is Flowers for Rhino.
Yes, you were talking about
this.
If
you've ever read the book Flowers for Algernon, this is literally that.
The movie wasn't that bad either.
And if you saw the movie, it's that, but with Rhino, and it's makes him a very sympathetic character that it plays on that. He isn't that smart. Like, he's probably a little less smart than the average person.
Well, for all our humanoids out there that haven't seen Flowers for Algernon, would you like to explain to them what the premise is?
Yes. Well, I was also just explaining it in general. But, so yeah, it has Rhino fighting Spider-Man, and Spider-Man can't out-brawn him because he's so much stronger. So he outsmarts him, and, like, when he's crashing the wall, he just webs him into the wall, and it's like, I caught you, because, like, he ended up double backing. And so Rhino goes back to, I don't think they say it's AIM. I think they say it's another person. But the ones who gave him his powers, like, you gotta do something, Doc. It's just like, make me more powerful. And it's like, you're powerful, you're just dumb. So they're like, we're doing this test on chimpanzees to make them smarter. And here's a chimpanzee, playing Mozart and, writing Shakespeare. And it's just like, we could make you smarter. and it will start off just a little bit, and it will get better and better. And so then injects him with whatever thing. He starts slowly becoming smarter, and like one of the mob bosses, like he ends up getting the girl because the girl's like, "Oh, you're smart. Actually, like my boyfriend, it's like he mobster guy. He's actually just a jerk, and he's kind of dumb, but I'm actually into smarts." And like he ends up beating Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's like, "You outsmarted me. What?" And and Rhino becomes so smart. It's just like, I beat you, Spider-Man, but I've like always dreamt about like killing you, but I don't want to now. Like, it was boring fighting you.
But as I recall from the movie, all good things don't last.
Yeah, well, I mean, the chimpanzee ended up hanging itself. Like, what happens is they became so smart, everything is boring.
Yes.
And so it has Rhino on top of, I think it's Brooklyn Bridge. It's like whatever famous bridge. Looking down at it, it's just like, if I jump down, will the impact of the water be able to kill me? Oh, there's a yacht going. How many people can I take out? And like he's contemplating this stuff, and he's just like, I'm contemplating suicide, and I'm trying to calculate it. I'm not happy with my life. And he goes back to the doctor, and it's just like, you gotta do something. I'm not happy. It's like, oh, well, because chimpanzee thing, we could just completely reverse it. You're gonna be dumb again. It's like, let's do this. And it just has him crashing through walls. And it's like, I just love crashing through walls. Like, that's what I love. Like, more than anything else, crashing through walls. And he goes through the mobster's house. It's like, it's like I'm just gonna crash through a wall. But some more of the like Ultimate Rhino and a little bit in the
I like the Ultimate Rhino.
Not the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans.
The one afterwards, the Amazing Spider-Man, the Sony Spider-Man,
Richard Garfield.
Yeah,
Spider-Man. They had the Mecha Rhino, which works more nowadays, using biomimicry to like, oh, how do we do this? Oh, well, nature already figured it out.
That's not my Rhino.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing like an amalgamation of like, oh, here's like a regular Rhino, but like let's stick him out with a little bit tech here and there.
That would have been cool, but that was just too much.
Yeah.
Since you brought up mobsters, one that we did not talk about is Tombstone.
Okay, yeah.
You ever hear of him?
Sure.
I guess he's like an undead villain or someone that died. He's like Solomon the Grundy.
Pale guy really doesn't like Robinson.
Yeah, bulletproof. Yeah, exactly. They did the whole Robinson thing in the original series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were in jail together. And Robinson is J. Jonah Jameson's right-hand man.
Yes, and Spider-Man's biggest supporter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he knows Peter's secret. He just never says anything.
Mm-hmm.
My theory.
Yeah. And he has super strength. He was in the new Spider-Verse movie a little bit. He was the pale guy with the handguns next to Fisk. He was very underutilized, but he's smart.
He does this and that, but other than that, he's sort of unutilized too.
Yeah, I mean, he's smart, at least crime-wise, just as Kingpin. And he's had time to do it, but Kingpin just does it better. But yeah, I think a lot of writers just don't know what to do with them because there isn't enough. But I guess they would have to try doing stuff with his backstory. Would probably be the best way to write him.
That would be. I just thought of him like right off the top of my head. He was one of those interesting ones I always thought could be a great Punisher villain.
Yeah.
Or if like he was given more time to expand out. Maybe Ghost Rider.
Daredevil Ghost Rider would actually work out probably the best.
I think like he'd be one of those street level villains because he always used Jigsaw. They always seem to go back to the well with certain ones. I think he'd be one that they haven't done in a while.
Yeah.
And like I think he's open for business, as far as new stories.
I'd like to see just a conglomeration, or I guess more accurately, syndicate of the lower kingpins, if you think about it. Have the Owl, Tombstone, Jigsaw,
Goblin,
Hammerhead.
Yeah. Oh yes, Hammerhead used it in the animated series as well.
Yeah. Just have them because it would have to take all of them, and even more to be able to compete against Kingpin. Yeah.
Silvermane, because I remember they didn't show this in the cartoon, but they ended up taking his head and attaching it to an android in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Really weird.
Yeah.
It was the 90s.
It's comic books.
Yeah. What can I say?
I mean, if you look at the stuff 50s, 60s, 70s. Weird stuff happens to him.
Yeah.
But, let's not talk about the 70s.
What about the 50s? Superman microwaving his baby.
It happens. That's why I always say it happens. It
Yep.
happens in comic books.
The Amazon ass spankings handed out left and right. Oh, wait. We'll get into that another time.
Yes.
Do you love me, Mary Jane?
So, talking about brutes, we've actually mentioned him a few times. Scorpion. He has a lot of connections. Was he? I don't think he was part of the original Sinister Six.
I think he was added on later.
Yeah. But, he has ties to Jameson. I mean, we mentioned the ties to Eddie Brock and Venom by being attached to the Venom suit. And he had the tail because that's what he's comfortable with.
After a while, he lost the tail, though.
Yeah.
When the Dark Avengers thing, he was a full-on Venom symbiote, but he was like a giant monster. He actually had to take a drug to make him like the small, pliable, looking Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was the symbiote, the hunger side of it, more in control.
Yeah.
Which was fascinating. They ended up taking off of him. He became the Scorpion again because everything comic seems to set back to what it was and then it shifts again.
I think when he first became Venom, he sold his suit. I think he auctioned it off.
Eddie was dying of cancer.
Well, and so he auctioned off his Venom suit, but when Scorpion became Venom, Scorpion didn't need a suit anymore, so he auctioned off his Scorpion suit. I don't know if anything ever happened with that. Because Scorpia came before that.
I think they captured Scorpion and ripped the symbiote off from the government. That's how they gave it to Agent Venom.
Yeah. I wonder if he had to buy his own Scorpion suit back.
He might. You never know. I don't think he could afford it, but...
Yeah, I mean, J. Jonah Jameson can afford it.
Oh, yeah. Here comes the money.
Well, I mean...
That man...
he's a secret kingpin.
I know.
Oh, no.
Can you imagine we do a fan theory? What if Jameson was the real kingpin of crime?
Yeah.
That's a what if for another time.
That's how he makes the news.
No shit, he does. Especially in the Ultimate Spider-Man when he's on that big TV screen. Yeah, we're going to have to do a whole Jameson's the villain thing.
I mean, he's smart enough to do a podcast.
Yes, he is. He's very smart to do a podcast.
I mean, you don't see Perry White doing that.
Now, we've been hesitant to talk about these next two guys. And... for me, in the old comics, he was one of my favorites, but as sad as it is, I think he got a bum rap with Jamie Foxx playing him, Electro.
I mean, we might as well talk about Electro and Shocker at the same time.
Yeah,
they both have similar power sets, but from different ways. I mean, Shocker, he has the electric knuckle things, and then wears the insulated suit so it doesn't affect him. Well, Electro is more natural and can actually
lightning elemental
and uses his powers to even greater effect. Like once again, talking about Spider-Man villains talking to each other in prison, Electro found out he can affect metal, electromagnetism.
Yep.
And so it's just like he could pick stuff up, metal with his powers, and just.
Well, he started out as a sea villain because every time Spider-Man threw water on him in the early days, he shorted out.
Sure. Or Spider-Man would shoot his hands with web shears and just punch him.
Yeah. It wasn't until they strapped him into an electric chair that he discovered he had an ability to absorb a lot more.
Yeah.
And he became like a pure elemental.
Yeah.
But the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they are what they are. I'm not saying anything against Jamie Foxx. I love the actor. I've watched his shows since the beginning.
I thought the look was fine. I mean, if you look at his suit, the green doesn't work that well with the yellow with the idea, and it's just it's a little goofy. What?
No, the blue face was cool. It's just I thought they would give him more to work with, but that's the movies. That's show business.
Yeah,
Shocker on the other hand has made multiple appearances. He seems to be one of those villains to turn up.
I think it's because he looks cooler. I honestly think it's that, and also he's probably easier to write
too. He's one of those guys you can hire out.
Yeah.
He's one of those ones that works for someone else. It's more of a thug.
Yeah.
Someone that'd be working for Kingpin. He made an appearance in Spider-Man: Homecoming, since we were just singing the praises of the Vulture.
Sure.
He actually made his first big movie debut in Spider-Man: Homecoming. I thought they did a fair job bringing him in.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. The Shocker has like Electro's more insane. Shocker's more about a payday.
Yeah.
He like I think he would fit good in the Flash robes.
Sure.
You know, he's about robbing a bank, having a beer, you know,
Yeah.
and planning the next heist. He's more of a professional.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the difference between.
And well, he's also
Shocker.
just a better fighter. Like
Yeah.
Electro cannot fist fight. He's just a regular person with electric powers. Well, Shocker is more of an actual thug. Like if you can actually hire him as a bodyguard, like don't hire Electro as a bodyguard,
Nope.
hire Shocker. Electro's more powerful. Shocker actually knows what he's doing.
And since we might as well talk about the last elemental, because the last elemental villain, because if we go into the full spectrum, the Human Torch is his friend, Hydro Man,
Okay.
the weakness to both Sandman and Electro,
Yes.
the man that turns into water.
Yes.
Some realities, Mary Jane's ex-boyfriend, jealous. They get mixed up with chemicals, becomes a being of water.
And he's kind of another one of those brawn and not brains characters.
Yes, he's worked with the Sandman. He's had problems. The powers seem to cross a lot.
Yeah.
There's just one of those people that shouldn't be put together.
I think he's teamed up with Molten Man also, and they've also had issues. Except Molten Man's more powerful than Hydro Man.
Yeah, Hydro Man's one of those people that seems to come up. He fit perfect in another Spider-Man team called the League of Losers. Because he seems to have all this potential, but he has no ability to use it whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's like an early version of Electro, yet he just never seems to get it.
He just needs to talk to the other fellas.
Yeah, he doesn't get it. Yeah, but he's a dick. He never seems to have any communication with anyone.
Yeah.
But since we're mentioning that, let's talk about one of the girls. The few, what are we going to call her? Temptress, Vixen, Femme Fatale, Black Cat.
And also, it's just like Catwoman, you know, it's just like villain, but not always villain. It's just like more of it in the thrill. You know, they steal.
Yep.
All stuff.
What's her name? Harding.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's Felicia Harding.
Yes.
Yes.
And she actually has some powers. I believe she has some negative luck powers.
Bad luck ability.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of Domino, which I always thought you could cancel her out.
So I believe they've altered Domino's abilities a little bit, because I believe early on she had both. She can increase luck and decrease luck. So Domino, you know, it's that black and white where she had both powers, I want to say originally. Not as much as Longshot, where his is just insane luck.
Yeah.
Well, he just has insane luck, and he can't control it. I think Black Cat can control it, and it's nowhere near as powerful as Domino's.
Yep, and she has a standard whip, agility, fingernails sometimes.
And
she
I
dated
believe
Spider-Man.
the whip has a little cat claw.
Mm-hmm. She dated Spider-Man for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Girlfriend for a few years, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mary Jane's, you know, accepted it. You know, it's just like, you know, sometimes people date. We weren't dating during the time. I think she was very jealous at first, where it's just like, you date somebody who was not me when we weren't dating, you know? It's like,
Well, the difference is that Parker, or Mary Jane loved Peter Parker. Felicia Harding loved Spider-Man.
yeah.
Because they did a what if where he married Black Cat instead of Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And she was more in love with Spider-Man than Peter.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like one of the dynamics of the relationship that was different from Mary Jane.
Yeah. And well, also, it's just one of those things where Mary Jane, you know, it's just like she's sort of more the rock, you know, it's like, I'm in love with you, you keep me stable. While with Black Cat, it's like, you make me wild. You know, it's just like, it's a lot more unstable, you know, it's a lot more impulsive, but like, it doesn't mesh that well with Spider-Man.
No. And Felicia's tendencies is still, too.
Mm-hmm.
She's also worked for the Kingpin, whether by choice, sometimes by not. Sometimes she's her own. She has her own criminal empire, like in Superior Spider-Man, where she was actually running her own show.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what iteration you catch her in, but she's always been the femme fatale Spider-Man.
And you know, and she really doesn't want to hurt people.
Sometimes.
Like I mean, mostly she just wants to steal.
Yeah.
That's what she's all about.
Piss her off though, she'll take you out.
Oh yeah.
That's a definite.
And it's not unusual for her to also cross paths with villains. Like
Yeah.
that happens a lot.
Yeah, heroes too.
Yeah.
She's worked with a few heroes on and off too.
Yeah.
Well, mostly the street level people. But yeah, she's done her bit. She was in Maximum Carnage.
Mhm.
She tries to help out when it's in her best interest to save her own ass.
Yeah.
But she's usually there if Spider Man needs someone. She's sort of an ally, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Um,
And now that you were mentioning it, I'm surprised Spider-Man doesn't have more female villains. We mentioned
yeah.
Octavia, and I mentioned quickly about Scorpia. There's not much to talk about her other than she appeared. Spider-Man and Black Cat beat her, and she went to jail. That's about it. But and then Black Cat. There's not really a lot of female Spider-Man villains.
No, not that I can think of.
Yeah.
I mean, they had that Carnage villain Scream.
Mm-hmm.
She was kind of like Carnage's babe for a while. And
But
killed her.
wasn't a Spider-Man villain. That was a Venom villain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was with Carnage, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a whole thing with Spider-Man. He seems to have more problems with girls in his love life, so I
Mhm.
guess he fights a lot more dudes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've covered a lot. Let's see. We have Morbius, the vampire.
Sure, and it's always a great excuse to bring out Blade in stories. Having Morbius around.
That was in the cartoons.
Yeah,
Check it out. Batman series from the '90s, kiddos.
but yeah, Morbius, vampire, looks kind of funny.
I liked he was in the comics. It kind of fell in line with this horror thing that Marvel sort of doing, where Spider-Man got 6 arms.
Yes.
That was cool. I like that look. They did a what if where he kept the 6 arms,
Yeah.
and as well in the cartoon where one of the Spider-Man alternate had 6 arms.
Yeah.
The differences between him: he's genetically created. He absorbs plasma through his fingers,
Mhm.
Morbius, and he's just generally a scientist and an all-around jerk.
Yeah. I mean, he's super smart, but it's not like he uses it as much to his advantage. It's very
Mm.
he knows what he knows, but outside of that,
Like Doom, and a very low-grade Doom, his ambition tends to drown out his intelligence.
Mhm.
His eyes are bigger than his stomach, basically,
Yeah.
and that's what ends up him becoming what he becomes.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a Green Goblin or
No.
Doctor Octopus.
And sometimes he's a good guy, sometimes he's not.
Yeah.
It depends on the situation. But one that was definitely sort of a bad guy that had a weird end run was Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, I believe that Stan Lee also says that Kraven symbolizes a lion, so he goes with
Yeah.
sort of like a predator theme.
Well, you can tell by his outfit, too.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big game hunter. He hunted most dangerous prey, and eventually he just was running out, and it's just like,
He also took the serum, too, in the comics. And also in the show, well, his wife gave him the serum thing, but in the comics it was... And it gave him, enhanced abilities of an animal.
yeah,
The strength of, Africa or something like that,
yeah. But he ended up defeating Spider-Man. I don't think he needed the serum. He went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, he was dying at this point.
Yeah, he was dying. It was really getting to him. He hasn't beaten Spider-Man, and
Yep.
it got to him. He was eating spiders.
Mhm.
He went crazy. And
He found out his identity. Didn't he bury him? He buried him alive.
he defeated Spider-Man. It's just this is my last chance.
Wasn't
all or
the
nothing,
villain that
and
he
went all-
defeated was Vermin?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, Vermin, who defeated Spider-Man,
See?
and Craven.
Our show comes full circle, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, Craven just ended up kicking butt, and they followed through. He ended up dying.
Yeah, it was a haunting scene where he was wearing the black costume. He took the mask off and he was laughing in the rain.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's Craven's Last Hunt. An
Yeah.
absolute amazing comic.
Great issue.
Yeah.
And we've done a fair amount on this list, but I'd like to mention a few other ones. Loki.
Loki. Yeah. I mean, Spider-Man. He gets around. He's such a popular hero. So I mean, eventually he's going to fight other villains. Fights Loki, Juggernaut. That was, I believe, issue 10. It was amazing.
Juggernaut, yep.
He didn't.
And X-Force, too. Second issue of X-Force, I think. Spider-Man makes an appearance.
Yeah, and actually, I want to talk about
With Juggernaut.
Spider-Man fighting Juggernaut. Spider-Man cannot beat Juggernaut. I mean, pretty much indestructible, super strength. I mean, Spider-Man's punching him, kicking him. Juggernaut's go away. Juggernaut was after
Web.
Madam Web. He was hired to assassinate her, and Juggernaut's not the most stealthiest hero. So like, okay, where is she? She's all the way over there. Okay, I'm going to crash through buildings, make a beeline to her, and I'm going to smash her dead. And Spider-Man's like, I have to stop you. And so Spider-Man's broken, like literally broken bones, beaten. I mean, they go through a construction yard. He's trying to get beams and like hitting Juggernaut. And Juggernaut's like, I'm not here to kill you. Stop this. There, smack, go away. And Spider-Man's like limping. He's like, I will stop you. And Juggernaut's like, you care this much about it? I don't care. I'm leaving. I really don't need money. I'm leaving.
Aside
so
from
he
his
beats
hatred
Spider-Man.
for Xavier, Juggernaut has an odd sense of honor.
Yeah. I mean, it's the gem that makes him evil. And other than him being kind of a bully, it's just like he himself isn't a bad person.
Yep. I love Juggernaut.
Doctor Doom,
Yep.
I believe issue 4.
Victor Von Doom.
It was pretty early on. I mean, Spider-Man, his crossover started early with Fantastic Four,
Yep.
of course. Doctor Doom, Cursed Arachnid.
There was one later on he did too, where this thief, Gray Fox, steals this jewel from Doom, and Doom just wrecks Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't sing Doctor Doom's praises enough.
Too good. He's too good.
He's been a villain for a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
I think Spider-Man, he looks at it with an indifference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to kill you, but if you get in my way, I'll
just
definitely
like
take care of the job.
it's like you're this goofy guy running around in pajamas. You are beneath Doom.
Yes. Now, since we've basically covered a lot of the Spider-Verse villains, who's your favorite?
As far as villains?
As far as Spider-Man villains, if you had to pick one, this is our closer right here. Who? Okay, top 3.
Top 3. Well, I mean, we were doing honorable mentions off the side of things.
All
I do
right.
want to say Hulk. So Spider-Man has defeated Hulk by making him laugh. His jokes won the day. That has happened.
Okay, since we're
I
mentioning
do want to
Hulk,
say that.
there's a what if where Hulk actually had to smash Spider-Man and he felt really bad about it. So, like, what if they lost the Atlanteans and they all became lizards?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and also, since we're mentioning Hulk, they did their own Fantastic Four thing where it was Hulk, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And they treated Spider-Man like the little brother.
Yeah. I mean, people love Spider-Man.
They even said that because we need a distraction. Hulk, Wolverine look at each other, and Hulk grabs Spider-Man. They throw him out of the Fantastic Four card.
Mm.
He's like, "This sucks. This is like I'm teamed up with 4 mean brothers."
Yeah. I mean, the Fantastic Four has a specific dimension. Getting too far. That could be another video on itself.
Oh yeah.
Ooh. I am going to have to go with Kingpin.
That is a good choice.
I mean, other than him being absolutely an amazing physically human, like, it's hard to defeat him even when he goes to jail. It's just like, okay, I'm going to have a smaller place to live, but I'm going to still keep on doing what I'm doing. Like, he is a chess
master. I have to give it to him.
Yeah.
He does play the game.
And, and he doesn't have super intelligence like a lot of the other characters. It's just like, he just sees how things work.
Well, that's cunning and ruthlessness.
Yeah.
I mean, like, sometimes you could be a genius like the Mad Thinker and you can't fund a trip to McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's that ruthlessness that makes a character.
And like, I just always remember there was one issue where it was just talking about part of his origin, but like, from him learning, like, he was this big fat kid. He had no friends.
Yep.
And also, let's face it, he's kind of a jerk. And he was always that way.
Yep.
But like, he'd just sit in front of his house watching people, but like, he wasn't just looking at them having fun. He was trying to figure things out. So he effectively molded his brain to think this way, whether it was intentionally or just like, I have nothing better to do.
He kept reading. He kept studying.
Yeah.
The Kingpin knows that he's not the smartest, but he knows how to build on what he has.
He speaks pretty much most languages, at least the major languages.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he speaks Japanese, Chinese.
And
I think he speaks French. I'm sure Spanish.
He has an antisocial personality disorder, which is great for business.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of ruthless ideal.
Yeah.
Ruthless aggression, I believe. For me, God, I love Spider-Man. It's so hard to pick. But nowadays,
There's amazing villains.
if I had to pick one, originally I would have to say the Green Goblin. Over the Green Goblin, I would have to say, but not lately. Doc Ock has just won
Oh yeah.
out over the years. I've gotten tired of the whole Green Goblin thing. I think he ran his course
Mhm.
after Siege. They did that Spider Venom Carnage or Red Goblin thing, which was okay. It wasn't as good as Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
For me, Doctor Octopus may not be the richest one. He's arrogant as hell,
Mhm.
but he has a cockroach factor. He always seems to have a scientific way to live.
Yeah.
Smart, and he's evolved a lot more than I think some of the other characters have.
Yeah.
And I loved his run on Superior Spider-Man. I love that he's in Hydra now, and they always seem to have, not like in the not late or like in the '90s, not really, but they always seem to have a juicy role for him
Yeah.
nowadays. And he seems to always cheat death. I mean, he's died more times than I think a lot of these other people have. And he just always finds a way to weasel his way back.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was cool. So I'd have to pick Doc Ock.
Yeah, and really for Spider-Man villains, for any characters, there's no wrong answer, but there's just so many different reasons.
Yeah, it's whatever
Whatever.
you feel,
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was just one issue, like the villain touched you in a certain way, where it's just like, oh, this character's really cool, or it's like, oh, I sympathize with the character.
Yep, and that's all it takes. And that's what makes is a cartoon episode is something that hits you. And that's why we like doing this show. And let us know. Like, subscribe, hit that button, hit the bell, and let us know who your favorite villains are. Let us know if we missed any. Let us know if there's any obscure ones you want us to
missed
talk
a
about.
lot, but
I mean, there's so many from
10-hour
the
show.
60s all the way to now. We could sit here and do a 6-7 hour documentary
I mean,
not cover all the C-listers.
Yeah, they did a whole stint, I want to say, after One More Day, where they were just making new villains for Spider-Man.
Yep. And like the cartoons, they've made villains here and there. And so this is just our little show going over some of our favorite villains, obscure and otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess another honorable mention, Moreland, eats Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, from the whole Spider-Verse thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those precursor species, they are literally a spider threat,
Yeah, well, most people don't know Spider-Man's a totem, which we should cover the Spider-Verse to get that out.
I mean, we're talking about the villains.
Yeah, he is a main one. He was very pivotal in the series. And like I said, there's different alternate realities, of course. They cover that in Spider-Verse, both in the cartoon and the comic.
Yeah.
I love in Spider-Verse, in the cartoon, they left it open for a sequel.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to Miguel being in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all the villains, unless you could think of anything else you'd like to add to the pile. I mean, we could sit here and I could rattle off a few more C-listers.
Yeah, I mean, that was what it would go down to is C-listers. We mentioned pretty much the majority of the major ones.
Yep. And as I said, this is the Comic Outlaw. This is Magnus. And this is our second show, The Outlaw's Corner. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Yeah.
Later.
Laters.